Hello, everybody, and welcome to the CX podcast R&R with my good self, Richard Knight, and him over there.
Afternoon, everybody, or good morning, whatever time of the day you're listening to this. Ryan Huxtable, good to be back. Good to be talking to you again, Rich, about all things customer
It
experience.
is indeed. We have not been on the podcast channels for some time now, and we've been hovering around the 79 episode mark since the back end of last year, that 2024. We are now into 2025. It is February, and we thought it was time to return with vengeance from the West Country and provide some insights into what we're looking at in 2025 when it comes to customer experience in this 80th, that's correct, 80th episode of the CX podcast R&R. And you can tell we've been on air for some time because Ryan's looking even older
I am
than
older.
usual. As his,
Milestone
oh,
birthday.
that's true. You did have a milestone
Yeah,
birthday. Happy
milestone
birthday.
birthday. I can't
Yes.
believe I was 40.
Amazing, isn't it? Yeah. And still a complete liar, which is lovely.
Yeah. So harsh.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So we're going to do a bit of warbling today for those people who don't know what we get up to. First time listeners, we are based down in the West Country, which is the best place ever in the world ever for cider, pasties, and great customer experiences. And we generally have a bit of a warble, that's West Country for talk, about all things customer experience. So we will be talking today about what to expect in 2025. Lots of businesses out there, Ryan, all talking about costs. Of
Yep.
course, it's a big thing we've got to think about, but is it everything? Is 2025 just going to be about cost?
Great question, isn't it? You turn on the news, you look at your feed on your news apps or on your chosen social media channel, and all you see is negativity, don't you, about the economy and costs going up and employment cost, business rates, etc. It's hard to do business at the minute. Let's not dress it up. It's not an easy place to be. I guess the point I more broadly make, which as you quite rightly pointed out, we've been doing these for a few years now. Every year there is a different challenge, whether that be, Brexit, COVID, a war. Now we've got increased costs. So, these things are cyclical, they happen all the time, and good businesses just roll with them, don't they? They find a way
Mm-hmm.
to be able to deal with this stuff. So I think from my perspective, the principal reason of wanting to resurrect our podcasts. Of course, we're back by popular demand, and we've had requests about where we've been. But really, is to remind businesses and remind individuals, that are running businesses or organisations or membership or wherever it is, that it doesn't have to be all about the operation, the process, the cost. This can be more about how do I get more customers, retain the ones I've got, and actually continue to grow my business profitably.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the key thing, isn't it? And over the years we've been doing this, it's actually been very similar across all the times we've spoken. People have always known and know about customer service, that sort of reactive nature of interacting with your customers. But from a customer experience point of view, it's still an education part, isn't it, that we're going through, or an education journey for people to really understand how it can really impact the businesses, any business across any sector. And therefore, it is a differentiating factor. Those that focus on customer experience really focus on it, not just send a survey out once a year, but really focus on customer experiences and put in place all of those processes and behaviors that make the big difference. See a change or see a difference in the resilience and being able to ride out these issues, these problems you've just spoken about. So we're here to talk about that again for everybody listening, just to give you some ideas and some pointers about what's sort of going to be going on as we move forward into 2025. I think one of the first things that we'll all be very, very aware of is the presence of AI, artificial intelligence, which is taking over the world. And in fact, the Terminator will be arriving very soon just to take us all out from Skynet, if everybody knows what that's
Be-
all
be-
about. Um,
Before we get into that, Rich, I think because AI is on everybody's lips, isn't it? You talk to anyone, it's like, we can analyze that through my co-pilot on my laptop.
yes.
Um, One of the things I think I'd like to pose a question to all of our listeners and viewers is where you currently think your organization is. And I know you're going to post a really nifty tool at the end
Yeah.
called a CX Checker, but I'm just going to share my screen. And for those of you that are listening, I will absolutely explain what we're looking at here. So this is something that I talk to my clients about all the time. And they're the 5 stages of what we would deem the client experience maturity of your organization. Now, it doesn't matter whether you are brand new, been running for 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, your business at some point will be on this scale. And there are 5 parts to this scale, and some businesses might even be on this scale, to be
Yeah.
clear.
Mhm.
So what I'm showing to those that are listening on a non-visual podcast, there are 5 boxes on here. One says stage 1, interested, and in stage 1, organizations that are at stage 1 are interested in thinking about their customers. They're interested in knowing more about their customers. But their interest, although it's important, might lack any structures. They may not have anything in place to help them listen to their clients regularly, get feedback, understand what their team think, etc. Now, you might think, well, God, Ryan, I'd have said that's quite advanced if I'm thinking about what my clients want. Um, in reality, in today's world, in a fast-moving world where clients can pick up information, at the click of a smartphone, just being interested in getting the odd bit of feedback isn't particularly advanced in terms of CX thinking anymore. 10 years ago, absolutely, on the money, you'd be at stage 5. Stage 2, the second box, is about it being invested. And this is where customer experience is important, and there is a plan and a focus on it. Now, for some people that I show this to, they go, "What? Well, I think that's fairly advanced, actually, stage 2. They've moved on from stage 1." And it is probably where most organizations that are likely to succeed are. And I use the word likely to succeed deliberately. Because if they don't keep listening and they don't understand what their customers want, they're not going to be successful. Stage 3 is committed, and that's where customer experience is vital. It's a vital part of the culture, and senior execs are involved, and there is a budget to invest in it. So we're not even at stage 4 yet, and we're talking about the committed stage. Are you going to put your money where your mouth is? Are you going to seek to understand independently what your customers and your team think? And I'll come back to the team point again and again and again. Your teams, the teams that work with you and for you, will be able to tell you straight away whether you're giving a good client service experience or not. Okay. Stage 4 is engaged. So customer experience is a key pillar of the success strategy. So this isn't something that you're doing on the side. It's not something that when you're sat writing an email, you think, oh yeah, I must send a survey out. I must get some insight. This is part of your day-to-day life. It's part of your processes. It's part of the strategy. How do I retain and gain more customers? And finally, stage 5 is embedded. So the customer experience is in the DNA of the business, and it's not a separate agenda. Okay, this is where you are, you're in the sort of realms of organizations like Ritz-Carlton. And, at Ritz-Carlton, everyone in the organization has the opportunity to surprise, delight, and leave great memories for the guests that they look after. So those are the 5 stages. Now, the next slide I want to show you is how would you describe your client experience? Okay, that's the question. So the first one was, where are you on that scale? How would you describe it? Is the experience you give random? Right? So process and tasks get in the way. There's little or no measurement in place. Exceptions are the norm. You get unintended consequences. You've got disengaged employees, right? If that's your organization, that's where you are, right? Let's just call it out. You're giving random experiences. Now, in that instance, if your organization is giving random experiences, you're carrying unnecessary cost. Customer experience is costing you, or rather, your customer experience you're delivering is costing you money. Why? Because if you're dealing with complaints, if you're having to deal with queries, that means that that's slowing down the customer payment part of the process, right? Because they're not going to pay you until they're happy that they're going to get a decent experience or get the product and service they're after. The second box on this slide talks about intentional experiences. Now, this is where good businesses are, right? They have a shared vision, they think customer, they fix their problems, they measure, and they've got good cross-functional governance. So they're looking across the organization to make sure that actually what they're delivering is consistent. That's when that's when customer experience can add real profitability to your organization. And then finally, differentiated experiences. This is when your organization becomes easy to do business with, right? It's not hard. You're not put through to a call center in South Africa where you've got a grumpy South African on the end trying to sell you something, right? You're not put through hoops to get a refund.
Yeah.
You're not going to get into argument. You're easy to do business with. So you think, you act customer, you fix mistakes, because we know that even in differentiated experiences, right, things go wrong. You're self-regulating, and most importantly, your customer experience is sustainable and it's going to continue to drive great client experiences. Okay. So how would you describe your client experience is very different. You need to think about this for 2025, right? Are you going to continue to deliver random experiences? Are you going to continue to deliver intentional experiences? And are you going to continue to deliver differentiated experiences? And in that, you need to make sure you don't drop back. But if you're in the random experience box, how do you create, how do you empower your team to deliver intentional experiences? If you're delivering intentional experiences, how do you deliver differentiated and so on?
Yeah,
So what are your thoughts, Mr.
absolutely.
Knight?
Yeah, well, absolutely makes sense because it's like every other part of every business. People think about strategy. When you look at everything beyond customer experience, somebody's always been had a meeting, done some thinking about it, set some goals, set some objectives, and actually understood how much of an impact it can make. But the majority of organizations are still without this from a customer experience point of view. And I think that key one where you're talking about customer experience being just part of the DNA is can also be almost seen as that holy grail for a lot of organizations because everything else gets in the way. But the thing to keep thinking about is that it's about the customer. What else can get in the way? The customer is the lifeblood of any organization, any business. You have to have the customers, and if they come in and go out, they don't hang around long, they don't spend enough, then ultimately that impacts the business longevity and whether you survive in this very volatile environment that we find ourselves in. So it's a logical step to make. And I think something like AI I was mentioning earlier in 2025, and it stepped up another level. Yes, it is part of that, and technology going forward. And we've spoken about this many times throughout the 80 episodes. Process and the technology is very important in those 5 stages, but also more so, it is that human aspect of customer experience that will really ensure that you get to the sustainability part of customer experience, one whereby people live it, it's part of the DNA and it goes forward. So I think going through into this year, particularly, yes, technology is there and it's improving and making things easier, but who are you making things easier for? If we think about where the customer sits, customer should be in the middle of all of this, at the center of your thinking. If you're producing or providing software solutions, automation for you as the business owners and employees, is it really working for the customer? How do you know? Have
I,
you asked them?
yeah, and I think you raise a good point around, AI is, as we said earlier, is a buzzword, isn't it? AI is another tool,
Mm.
right, in your toolbox. And AI, if you don't use it properly, will deliver a random experience.
Yeah.
AI,
Mm.
if you intentionally use AI, it will help you deliver an intentional experience. If you use AI in a very positive way, it will help you deliver a differentiated experience. AI, to your point, Rich, is not the holy grail. It is
Yeah.
another tool to use.
Mm.
The other point I'd make is, our CEO talks about this all the time, Jonathan. He talks about, wrapping technology in love. And that phrase is as important today as it was as when he started talking about it um 4 or 5 years ago, which is, look, you can put any process in place any technological process, or indeed paper trail process. It doesn't really matter what the process is. If the customer doesn't understand the process you're taking them through, it will deliver that random experience that we talk about. And therefore, it will begin to cost you money.
And so here's a real world example of that at the moment. We're actually buying and selling a house at the moment, or houses at the moment. Understanding that most complicated of processes, conveyancing, is one of the sticking points that we are finding we are going through at the moment. The frustration, the lack of satisfaction around the process at the moment is driven by our lack of understanding and a proactivity from those organizations involved in conveyancing, not just the solicitors, but the estate agents, who else involved are removals people, all the other people involved in this. If they don't understand that they need to explain to the nth degree and sit and see it from a customer's point of view, we get this massive divide between customer and business. And that divide gets bigger and bigger as the frustrations grow and grow and grow. And it's a really interesting one. We've bought and sold a number of houses through the years, and we've never used the same solicitors twice to do that. Not because anybody was really bad, but it was all just all right. It was okay. Nobody
ever stood out.
Nobody ever stood out. There was never differentiated experiences within that. And key thing across that, and I think one of the things for 2025 is yet again around communication. No matter what you do in your business, whatever service you provide, whatever product you sell, are you 100% sure your customers understand what it is you do, how you do it, what to expect in processes, in a journey that they go along? If you're not comfortable or confident that they really know what to expect, then there's a fair bit of work to be done in helping them, because then ultimately you're avoiding those issues that we spoke about there with the sort of the ad hoc nature of customer experience or customer service.
So Rich, with your with the current experience you're having buying your next property, I'm assuming from what you've said, you're very much getting random experiences, because there are a number of different individuals involved in that house purchase, i.e. the sellers, the solicitors, the estate agents, you guys, and so on. What would have made that process better, do you think?
So it comes back to this communication piece, and the onboarding, the start of the journey, what to expect, what is going to be happening, and also asking some great questions up front. So, have we bought and sold houses before? How many times? What was our previous experience? What were the things that got in the way the last time? How can we help it? May smooth it out for you as we go forward. And then that checking in, the regular communication, even, and we've said this on this podcast many times, even if there's nothing to say, tell me there's nothing to say.
Yeah.
This time round, we've come across a couple of legal problems, and I like to think I'm a vaguely sensible sort of person and logical, and I can understand that, yes, the law can get in the way and there can be some problems. I get that. But if you're not communicated about how they can be resolved or what's going to happen next, I sit there stewing and getting more frustrated. And I've been amazed this time round how much of an impact this the stress has had on us as we've gone through this. The last few weeks have been really impactful, trying to run our business, thinking about when we're going to move, are we going to move, what time is it going to be, are you going to exchange, when can we complete, are the people down the chain going to hang around, or are they going to disappear, is the whole thing going to fall apart? And this impact is huge, that we're lying awake at night thinking about, what if it doesn't happen, what's going on, Why? We don't know whether somebody sent a document back. Have they signed it yet? Do they need to sign it electronically, or does it have to be a wet signature, which always I find slightly disturbing? Is that all happening? We don't know. You're just sitting there letting your brain come up with all the worst scenarios you could possibly have.
Yeah, and there's that famous old adage, isn't it, that moving house is one of the most stressful things you'll ever do in your life. And it sounds to me, again, I don't want to put words into your mouth there, but it sounds to me as if the communication and the managing of your expectations has been very random, and therefore, that's creating a level of anxiety for you as the client that possibly will mean that you don't recommend the other stakeholders that are helping you along the way in the future, and you possibly won't go back and use them again.
We've had this very conversation over the last few weeks, and we are actively tell people not to go to various businesses. So the impact is huge, and we'll continue to roll and go on and on and on. And the number of people when we've given names of various firms, etc., we've been using, they sort of people roll their eyes because they know of them and they go, oh right, yeah, I've heard that before. We've heard, so it's that sort of self-fulfilling prophecy around when you're not doing it right and you're getting in people's way. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here going, oh, the whole of that professional services side of things is blooming awful and blah, blah. There are some fantastic people within that process. But the thing is, and I get this from the individual business's point of view, it is a joined up process with lots of moving parts. I absolutely get it. And there are things beyond my control and a lot of the firm's control from a law point of view as well. So, unless you're going to change the way law is done in the UK, there's lots and lots to consider. But going back to what you've just been talking about those 5 different levels, those 5 steps involved in getting customer experience working, how actively are those organizations looking at that? Because there are simple things. It doesn't need to take that millions of pounds for AI systems to be put in place. When you pick up a telephone, saying hello in a nice, bright way, and using your name and the firm's name just takes the edge off anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Massive, great thing to do.
Absolutely. It's a great point. So our top tips, I think, for 2025 as we come towards the end of this our first podcast of 2025, the questions we want to leave you with and to really think about is where is your organization at the moment? Okay, where is it? Is it delivering a random experience? Is it delivering an intentional experience? Is it delivering a differentiated experience? And how do you know? Are you asking?
Yeah.
Do you actually know what your customers and people think? If you're not, that's where we can help at Inside Six. We are brilliant at this stuff. I'm not blowing my own trumpet here. Just go and look at our testimonials on our website. We can really help you have a really good non-biased view of where you are in the market. And I think the brave step to take in 25, if you don't do this stuff, is take the step. Talk to your team, talk to your customers, get some feedback, find out what is going wrong. Nobody wants to do a bad job. We absolutely understand that.
Yeah.
But here's the killer fact. Here is the killer fact. The feedback about your organization and business exists anyway. It's out there, right? It's whether or not you choose to listen to it and do something about it. And if you do, you will start to move from that random to that intentional to that differentiated. So
love it
this year.
And QR code is now on the screen. So if you want to find out where you might sit in terms of your CX maturity, take the CX checker, 4 minutes, find out which particular zone you might be sitting in currently. And if you'd like to have a chat with us, we're more than happy to sit down for an informal conversation and see what's going on with you and how we can perhaps assist with you going forward. So if you're listening on the podcast and you can't see that QR code, check in the description of the podcast. There will be a link to that CX checker as well. So there we are, Mr. Huxtable. First one of the year, episode 80 done.
What an episode.
I
Well,
mean,
do you think we've given a random experience today, or intentional, or even differentiated? We'll let our listeners and watchers let us know. But thank you for listening and watching us today. If you have enjoyed us, please like, share, and comment. And we look forward to seeing you on the 81st podcast.
thank you very much. Goodbye.